what's up everyone? It is Rachel. Welcome back to my channel. And so because UC Berkeley just released their waitlist student admissions, today we are going to be talking about the alternative pathways that you can take as a first year at Berkeley. So fall program for freshmen, also known as FPF, Global Edge, and then spring admission. So I've recruited a bunch of my friends who have gone through these different pathways, and so they're going to be answering a few questions for you all, talking about their experience, the pros and cons. And so if you have any further questions about any of these things, leave a comment down below. I was also waitlisted to UC Berkeley, so I actually chose the FPF San Francisco option, which is no longer an option, but I did do FPF my first semester at Berkeley, so I can totally help answer any questions down below. So let's get started.
Hi, my name is Yiming Yi, and I am a senior at UC Berkeley studying Operations Research and Management Science. So I took part of FPF Berkeley. I was a fall admit, and I was not waitlisted Berkeley. It was just a decision that I chose because I liked it.
Hello everyone, my name's Casey. I am technically a third year, but I'm on a gap year right now. I actually did a study abroad program called Global Edge. And so my first semester, I studied abroad in London, and then I started studying on campus. A rumor that I've heard about a lot of people is that if you're doing study abroad first semester, if you're doing Global Edge first semester, it's only because you couldn't get in to campus. I got in for fall. I just wanted to study abroad. I wanted to get far away from my hometown.
My name's Kathy. I'm currently a senior. I just took my last final, so hopefully an alumni soon. I was a econ and data science major in college. I'm from Philly, and the first semester path I took was FPF.
I'm Sparshain. I'm a graduating senior, double majoring in business administration and operations research and management science from Cal. My fall semester was part of the fall program for freshman cohort. At the time, I was a waitlist student at Cal and was given a few options. I think I was given the option to defer my enrollment to January, be a part of the Global Edge program, or to join an FPF cohort.
Why did you choose this pathway?
Wanted to have perhaps like a smaller college feel at least one semester in my life. And of course, I wanted to talk to my professors and such and get to know my classmates in a smaller setting.
I chose Global Edge because I wanted to do something different. I also wanted to get away from my hometown, right off the bat. Honestly, I think the studying abroad seemed cool, but it was the getting to go study for the summer, just right off the bat, that was really appealing for me.
So the reason why I took FPF was because I was waitlisted. I personally chose FPF because I wanted 4 full years of college, and I wanted to start college when everyone else started college. That was really important to me, to have a very normal experience, I guess. I also really wanted a summer before college to kind of just have fun, because I think that's pretty important. You work so hard in high school to get into a decent college, and then you need some time to unwind and just enjoy yourself before you study again.
And I chose the FPF cohort because I wanted to come into Berkeley and to acclimatize with the surroundings, as it was the first time I came to the US altogether.
Is there a stigma around people who choose this pathway?
So because FPF students are mostly waitlisted, people be like, oh, you're waitlisted, there's maybe a tiny stigma, but in the end it doesn't matter because you're all at the same college. The idea that FPF kids are not as smart is extremely stupid. The reason why is because almost all FPF kids are out-of-state students, so it's harder for out-of-state students to get into UC systems than in-state students. But I don't think there's a real stigma, especially because a lot of your friends you make are probably going to be in FPF, so it's it's fine.
There is a stigma around people who choose this pathway, probably for the first couple months, because people haven't figured out where they are or what their place is or really how they got here, and so they feel like the fact that they might have been waitlisted puts them on this waitlister track, which is entirely not the case, and that's entirely false. And there shouldn't have been any stigma, and to be very honest, people don't recognize it or even realize it after the first semester that they are at Cal.
Personally, yeah, there's some basic jokes, mostly joked among FPF students. Professionally, I've ran club recruiting for 2 different clubs, and we received transcripts from students, and of course it lists it's X history or something, which indicates you took that class in FPF, and no one cared. It wasn't even brought up at least once.
I don't think there's a stigma around people who do Global Edge. If anything, people are always interested in it. They always say oh, I wish I'd studied abroad my first semester, that would have been cool. And then you just tell them about it, and it's cool.
Did you miss out on the Berkeley experience because of choosing this pathway?
Absolutely. I think one thing I would say to people considering Global Edge is fall orientation is way different than spring orientation. Spring orientation is like a couple days, and it's not nearly the same experience, and you don't meet nearly as many people in spring orientation. Now, if you're super social, like, you can still make friends, and a lot of people that I knew from Global Edge or from spring orientation are still really tight with the people they met in spring orientation. But for someone like me who wasn't as social in orientation, I think I would have found some more friends. And that's kind of where a lot of people find their core friend group too, right? It's in that orientation week. So yeah, if you're considering Global Edge, definitely take into consideration the fact that, like, fall orientation is very different than spring orientation, and you might be missing out there.
Not at all. As a matter of fact, you still live in the dorms and you're still part of that experience. And so when you are coming in, it's almost even better because you get the opportunity to take smaller classes, which you might not be exposed to for your first semester.
I would say I also didn't miss out on the Berkeley experience because of it, because I think a huge part of your Berkeley experience is your dorms. So who you live with, your floor, stuff like that, because you end up getting pretty close to your floor. Another thing that's nice about it is, like, just making so many friends in FPF. Like, a lot of my close friends are from FPF, and a lot of Rachel's close friends are also from FPF, like our group of friends.
No, although I might be the wrong person to ask because I was pledging a business fraternity my first semester, so I pretty much missed out on my college experience through that. But hearing from other FPF people and just, like, trying to think of what college would have been like if I didn't pledge, I doubt it would have been any missing out. Okay, you don't go onto the main campus, but there's not much going on in the main campus until like 8 p.m. where all the clubs start their activities, so there's really not much to miss out on.
Was it difficult to make friends or join clubs?
Not necessarily. I think I was a little more antisocial my freshman and sophomore year, but that was just me. And then when you get back on campus, like, joining clubs, like, everybody's really interested in your experience. Like, if you go to a club and then they ask, like, oh, what are you up to, what have you done, and you're like, oh, I just got back from London, like, everybody wants to hear about that. Everybody's interested in it. So it's not a barrier at all. I mean, you do feel a little behind because, like, everybody's already been doing their thing for 5 months now, but besides that, like, everybody's very interested in what you've been up to, and they think it's really cool. So that was actually an advantage. Whatever clubs I was trying to join, like, everybody was really into the fact that I'd studied abroad. So that worked out great.
I joined the ASUC my first semester. I was pledging a business frat, and then, my sophomore year I joined a consulting club. So no, it definitely wasn't hard to join clubs. It definitely wasn't hard to make friends. In fact, I made friends because of FPF. Because, like, when you first start off as a student, you're probably taking classes, the huge classes like math 1B or, like CS61A. And those have 200, 300 people. But I took a history class in FPF and it was only like 40, so it's definitely, like, way easier to make friends, because of the smaller size of your discussion and lecture periods.
I would say it's easier to make friends if you do FPF, and then for joining clubs, it, like, doesn't matter. They don't care.
What was the biggest pro about this pathway?
It allows you to have a simpler or a less high-pressure introduction to just joining UC Berkeley. And that's a huge help when it comes to the amount of workload and classes and stress that could come later on during the course of your college career.
So I would say biggest pros are small class sizes, and then also, like, making friends is a lot easier. In general, when you have smaller class sizes, it's like a more intimate setting, so your professor actually knows you. You can actually talk to your professor and have, like, real conversations with them. And then along with that, it keeps you more accountable, so you kind of have to, like, you can't just, like, skip class because they know you're not there. I got to have, like, a lot more one-on-one time with my professors, and then they all knew me, and I, like, asked someone for a letter of rec, and I felt, like, a lot more engaged in college when I was doing it. Another big pro for FPF in general is usually the classes are not as hard as Berkeley classes, so your GPA gets a boost. Like, they don't follow the same curve as a lot of Berkeley classes.
Pro is that it just definitely changed my worldview. Like, I mean, I'd come from, like, a relatively small town, and then I just jumped very quickly from, like, this environment of, I'm in this small school, small town, grinding really hard. My world just felt small, And then you, like, go to Europe and you're just like, whoa! Like, there's just so much more out there, and things are just so much more nuanced. And there's so much more meaning than you had just ever considered before. Although it was a bit abrupt going from, like, this really small world to, like, really big world, I think for me that worked out really well. And I actually am really stoked on it today. I recommend it for a lot of people. So yeah, if you get the chance to go abroad at all, like absolutely do it. It will expand your worldview.
What was the biggest con about this pathway?
I don't know if there really is one. The classes aren't curved, but then again, the curves aren't that generous for the classes that you can take outside of FPF. Yeah, like my Math 1B class wasn't curved, but if you took Math 1B on campus, you probably would have gotten a B on average, but I got an A.
The biggest con about this pathway, coursework is limited, and so if you are pursuing certain degrees or just certain programs where you are unable to take classes that are, being offered on a typical campus, that's something that you might not have access to.
The biggest con with Global Edge is, again, your orientation's different, which is kind of a bummer. But like even bigger is like if you're not super social like me and you need to meet a lot of people to like find your people, Global Edge is a pretty small program. There's only like 50 people. So if you aren't good at connecting with those 50 people, you're kind of screwed, right? Luckily for me, like I had a good group of friends that like, I got through it, it was fine. But if you're not going to connect really well with that core group, then you're kind of screwed. And you just got to figure out how to make friends abroad, which is difficult your freshman year. It's hard for you to just make friends with people in other countries. Like you can do it, but you're only there for a couple months, and at least mentally there's a lot of barriers, right? So if you're doing Global Edge, I would recommend like being pretty social. Like that's a really good thing to have, and you gotta be cool with that group of people that you're going with, because if you're not, it's gonna be a lot more difficult for you. And again, it's 50 people, so you're not meeting nearly as many people as you would have if you had just done the regular path and been there for fall orientation and met everybody in fall.
Would you recommend others choose this pathway?
I would say yes, because in general, like I think I got really close to a lot of people because of it, and it was just really fun, like genuinely really fun. I think at the time I didn't love it, but looking back, it was like 100% worth it. Like compared to real Berkeley classes, which are 1, way harder, 2, a lot bigger, and 3, like you don't talk to as many people. I'd say it's like almost better than being on Berkeley campus, like first semester, especially as a freshman, because you're kind of getting integrated.
Absolutely. I think that even if you are a regular admit or you are a waitlist admit, I think that considering a program like this is actually a very nice way to come into Berkeley, because it can be very, very overwhelming to join a very large campus environment. And I think this is probably the best way you can actually ease yourself into a campus advice.
I would recommend Global Edge. I think it was definitely rough and tumble for me. Like I got a lot from it, but I also like had a hard time. But in general, I think if you know that you want to go abroad and you know that you're sociable enough that you're going to find friends in a group of 50 people and be social with everybody, you're going to have an amazing time. And in terms of like expanding my worldview, being abroad for the first time, like that changed my life. That absolutely changed my life. So that was fantastic.
Any final advice?
It's a story that's been told 1,000 times. The biggest regret of a lot of students is not talking to their professors more. So FPF's a great way to do that, and you should really take advantage of the smaller class sizes if you do choose FPF. Your college career is too short to worry about the small things. Missing one homework assignment or, not getting to a club. Yeah, just don't sweat the small things. Keep your goals in mind. Just try to have fun.
Whatever you do decide to do, write it down or make videos like this one and look at it a couple years from now. I like to go back and look at my journals from when I was abroad, and it reveals a lot, especially in your first year. Like, oh my god, college is such a transformative time, but especially that first year, it's just like everything's changing, everything's new, everyone's new, everything is changing. You're learning all these new things about yourself. It's just incredible.
College is very much what you make of it, so if you want to have fun and make friends and like do fun things, like you can definitely do that. Like you can find people to do that with if you just put yourself out there. And then also in like the same grand scheme of things, like if you work hard enough and you study enough and you put in the time, you can also like get good grades and stuff like that. And it's just like very much what you make of it. So if you're wondering like, am I making the right decision? Like, yes, you are. It just, you have to continue making right decisions afterwards.
There's nothing to be ashamed of. There should not be, and really there isn't really much of a stigma around this, even if you do choose this pathway. And all I can say is the best people that you meet are probably going to be from the FPF program.
Congratulations again on coming to UC Berkeley. We're really glad to have you, and hope you enjoy your first semester.